afternoon, everybody. Good morning to those who are joining from Europe. Welcome to CUHK Law. Welcome to two meaningful events. First, we have the inauguration of the CUHK Law Center for Comparative and Transnational Law. And this is followed by the conference on the role of the law of unjust enrichment in Asia. My name is Lutz Christian Wolf. I'm the Dean of CUHK Law, and it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you today to join these events. Since we have a very tight timeline, I would like to hand over the virtual floor right away to my colleague, Professor Rehan Abeyratne, in order to start the inauguration of the CCTL, as we call it, the CUHK Law Center for Comparative and Transnational Law. Rehan, please.
Thank you very much, Lutz. Let me just share my screen before I start. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us over Zoom. My name is Rehan Abeyratne. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Comparative and Transnational Law, and I'm truly delighted to be able to officially launch the center today. The center has actually been in operation for a couple of months now, but we've been waiting for the perfect opportunity for an official launch, and I'm glad that we found it. And I'd like to thank the Dean and Professor Stephen Gallagher for inviting us to launch it before this great conference. So let me just say a few words broadly about the center, and then I'll invite my colleagues to say more specific things about some of the research that we're doing. So our purpose, I think, is quite clear. CCTL aims to provide institutional support to comparative and transnational legal research at CUHK Law. We at CUHK Law have one of the most international law faculties in the world. We have professors from 20 different jurisdictions and who have lived and worked in even more jurisdictions. CCTL builds on this strength, and I think builds on the growing importance of comparative and transnational law, both within legal academia and in broader legal practice. As those of you in Hong Kong will know well, given that this is an important sort of international business center and international law center, the practice of law is becoming increasingly transnational. Right? Most practitioners, especially in a place like Hong Kong, but I think globally, have to deal with cross-cutting legal issues that touch on several jurisdictions. They need to understand how different legal systems operate. And a similar trend can be seen in academia. So I'd say in the last 10 to 20 years, comparative and transnational scholarship has blossomed. It's now sort of almost uncool to do anything other than comparative and transnational law. And I think our center really builds on these trends. And it does so in a few specific ways. So first, I think our mission is to conduct cutting-edge and innovative research in these areas. We also want to be collaborative. We want to have collaborative research projects within CUHK Law and with external parties. We already have planned collaborations with the National University of Singapore, with Melbourne Law School and the University of Oxford, and I'm sure we'll have many other partners going forward. We want to eventually be recognized as the leading center of excellence in the areas of comparative and transnational law in Asia. We also want to contribute to excellence in teaching in our university by promoting interdisciplinary approaches to course design and materials, and also promoting teaching-related collaborations with other faculties in our university. So these are the kind of more academic aspirations we have, but we also have some practical ones. So we would like to also have a high impact through research in academia and non-academic circles. We would like to develop policy proposals for consideration by the Hong Kong government and other governments. And just more broadly, I think we'd like to contribute to the betterment of society, locally, regionally, and internationally, through knowledge transfer activities, through media engagement, and through consultation with international and non-governmental organizations. So that's a kind of general overview of our mission. Let me end by just saying a brief word about our structure. So CCTL is structured like a broad umbrella. I think the idea is to permit our own faculty to develop their ideas for research clusters and collaborations. We currently have 5 cluster groups. These clusters have been proposed by the faculty themselves, by different faculty members, and they cover a range of public law and private law subjects. So briefly, we have the Comparative Constitutional Law Research Forum, the Transnational Legal History Group, the Corporate Law and Governance Cluster, Obligations Lab Asia, which is responsible for this conference, and the Private International Law Group. So that's a brief overview of the center. Let me turn over to my colleagues to tell you more about the clusters. Before I do that, let me thank you once again for being here, and I look forward to seeing you at future CCTL events. Thank you.
My name is Williamson, and I am a chair of the Comparative Constitutional Law Research Forum of the Center. So the forum has 6 faculty members, and among other things, so currently we are focusing on 5 book projects. The first is the Routledge Handbook on Constitutional Law in Greater China. So this handbook seeks to provide a comprehensive survey of important constitutional issues in mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, and engage critically with leading views on these issues. In addition to this, we are working on a series of 4 volumes on comparative constitutional law in Asia. So this series seeks to provide a comprehensive account of 4 major issues in 18 Asian jurisdictions, and the 4 volumes will be on constitution making, constitutional amendment, constitutional identity, and constitutional rights. So the main purpose of this series is to locate Asia within the global scholarship of comparative constitutional law. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Roberts, and I am the current chair of the Transnational Legal History Group. The group currently has 7 members. I expect we will only grow over time. However, it would be impossible to go into all the detail of our members' fascinating work, but I'll say in general, the Transnational Legal History Group aims to focus on 3 major areas: on Asian legal history, on the history of international law, especially alternative ways of thinking about the history of international law, and finally on the history of law and empire. In broader terms, I think just as with the center as a whole, the aim of the Transnational Legal History Group is not only to conduct this research in our individual silos, but to bring people together, to think about ways that legal evolutions in different parts of the world connect to one another, to explore how maybe different areas of law that we don't typically think about together have been connected historically. The group has many different plans. As many of you doubtless know, CUHK has had a Greater China Legal History seminar series that's been going for several years that will be continuing in collaboration with the group. We're hoping to organize talks on a diverse range of subjects over the coming years as well. And finally, longer term, we're hoping to broaden the legal community, both inside the university by working across departments, as well as to broaden the community outside the faculty and the university, including, for example, by organizing several international legal conferences. So please look out for announcements as to all of that in the years to come. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charles Shi. I'm chairing this corporate law and governance cluster with a very strong focus on the comparative perspective of corporate governance issues. This cluster consists of 5 members of the faculty, and we are currently working on 2 projects. One of the project is a CUP handbook on a cutting-edge issue, which is shareholder voting and engagement. And we had a symposium just past Monday and Tuesday, and we're really looking forward to taking this issue further by engaging leading scholars around the globe. The second project that we're working on is a project that we partner with a leading legal institution in the PRC. Now, we are trying to contribute to the reform in a specific area in the PRC law in relation to corporate governance. So that it is hoped that our collective intellectual endeavor in that front can bring change for good in the PRC legal system. So please stay tuned. We'll be making more events available. Thank you.
My name is Nikita. I represent the Private International Law Group. As the name suggests, we do all things on private international law, but we also extend our interest to all kinds of international business transactions. So one of the major initiatives we have already started is a new seminar series called the Cross-Border Legal Issues Dialogue. And we have already had 2 seminars with great scholars talking about fascinating topics on private international law. And just to give another example of the things we do, currently Alan Gibb, a colleague of mine, and I are doing a new article on the characterization of limitation period, and it's a comparison between the relevant rules in China as well as in Hong Kong. So these are the kind of things we do, and if you're interested at whatever level of interest, I should say, on private international law and relevant topics, we would like very much to engage you in the future. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Let me just say a few words about the Obligations Lab Asia. This is a cluster of the Center for Comparative and Transnational Law. It is chaired by Professor Lutz Christian Wolf, and it seeks to, in a nutshell, to combine tradition and modernity in the study and in the practice of the law of obligations. As you know, the law of obligations is one of the oldest fields of legal science. It's probably the most doctrinally sophisticated one, and it is at the core, of course, of any traditional legal education around the world. When I was a law student, I was frequently told that you could not be a good lawyer if you don't have a good, solid knowledge of the law of obligations. I don't want to downplay the importance of other branches of law, but I still believe, 20 years later, that there is some truth to this statement. Many fields of law draw inspiration from doctrines and principles that have originally emerged and consolidated in the realm of obligations law. And that's why the research that we conduct seeks to be interdisciplinary. On the other hand, just like any other field of law, the law of obligations is continuously challenged by social and economic developments. As you all know, we are all facing around the world a major crisis, the COVID-19 crisis. And of course, it puts some traditional rules and principles to the test. For instance, how can we uphold the principle of sanctity of contracts in a world that seems to be upside down? Force majeure clauses will probably become the new normal, and the lessons to be drawn from this terrible crisis will surely influence practice in the future. More broadly, obligations law frequently interacts with other branches of law and needs to keep track of technological developments such as e-contracts. So the Obligations Lab Asia is essentially, as the name implies, a laboratory for research and experimentation that seeks to bring together scholars and practitioners from different legal and cultural backgrounds with a special focus on Asia. This is something that is a part of CUHK's DNA. As mentioned previously, we have colleagues from all over the world, from civil law backgrounds, common law tradition, and we seek to have a special focus on on Greater China and the Asia region. Besides today's event, last week we organized a very well attended seminar by Professor Lutz Christian Wolf titled "Contract Law is Property Law." So we also seek to challenge and to even tease to challenge the traditional paradigms and confront traditional perceptions about this fascinating field of legal science. So we already have a few more events on the pipeline. For now, there's not much I can say. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I would invite all of you to watch this space and to stay in touch with us. Thank you.
We're just starting out, so this is a center that we hope will grow. As I said, I think it'll grow, in terms of academic research. We also hope that it grows in a practical direction. And it will also grow in terms of having new clusters. We will soon, I think, have a cluster on environmental law, perhaps a couple of others as well. So at least for me, I'm very excited that we have the center. I think it's a great opportunity for collaborative research. And as I said earlier, I hope that all of you will be involved at whatever level of engagement you would like. So thanks again.
Thank you, Rihan. Thank you all very, very much. This is the end of the inauguration ceremony. We'll meet again at 2 o'clock to start the conference of the role of the law of unjust enrichment in Asia. See you then.